blood pressure, high cholesterol, and heart disease. Now I'm going to say this again.
Who gonna tell Miss Mamas about medical racism and that the BMI is highly sexist and a tool of white supremacy? Who's gonna tell her that the leading causing fact of heart disease is smoking? You know what's also high up there? Poor dental health. Imagine how everybody's health preventatively could be shifted if they had access to dental insurance. You know what drives my blood pressure up? Racism, misogynoir, fat phobia. I wonder which of those you're participating in. You know what else causes cholesterol and diabetes? Environmental racism, living in a food desert. Additional links to cancer, poor water access, environmental concerns, industrialized food, deodorant.
Give me a second while I search for the point you're trying to make. This is textbook whataboutism. Yes, smoking leads to heart disease, but so does obesity. As for BMI being a tool of white supremacy, how exactly? If we go off of BMI to establish racial supremacy, people in Nigeria are superior to people in the UK, and people in France are inferior to Kenyans. In fact, 8 out of 10 countries with the lowest obesity rates are African countries. In fact, the lowest European country on the list still has over 3 times the obesity rate of Nigeria. So how exactly could this be used to establish white supremacy? When using it logically to establish a hierarchy would actually put Africans above Europeans.
I know that your comments were really well intentioned, and I want to thank you for listening and engaging. And I also think it's just your comment is useful to dig a little bit deeper here. The dislike of touching fat people is fat phobic. And also we have to be clear that this isn't fat people going out of their way to try and invade other people's spaces. We are just trying to exist in public space. Weight and body size is considered an immutable characteristic, which means it's something that we don't actually have control over, in the same way that folks don't have control over their sexuality or race or ethnicity. They're things that are intrinsic to our being. We can't control how much space that we take up in the world. We're just trying to exist. Going back to my original video, fat people know how much other people, especially on planes, do not want to be in physical contact with us. We can feel it. We can see it on your faces. We can hear it in your groans. Sometimes we can read it on your phones when you're texting people about us. So here are some things that would be a really great practice for thin folks and even other fat folks who haven't dealt with their fat phobia that you can do to both continue to challenge your own internalized fat phobia and more actively show up for fat people in these spaces that cause a lot of distress for us. This is not universal to all fat folks. This is just something that I was thinking about as I was having to fly a lot over the last month. So, use your human intuition when you're real life in these spaces. If you happen to be sitting next to a fat person on a plane and you notice that we are contorting our bodies to try and take up as little space as possible, you can let us know that it's okay to make ourselves comfortable. You could volunteer to lift up the armrest. That's a big issue. Don't make it a thing when we ask for a seatbelt extender. If a fat person is in a middle seat, that is so fucking dreaded for us. No, it's dreaded. And you have an opportunity to switch a seat with a fat person so that they can be in a seat that's more comfortable for them, please do that. If you see someone being a fat phobic asshole on a flight, trade with that person. Do what you can to make sure that the fat person you are sitting near is not having to sit next to someone who is being, actively hating on them. Anyway, those are just a few thoughts that I have. Other fat people, if you want to share some of the ways that you would love if people could help make you feel more comfortable on planes, let me know.
This is hands down the most entitled video I have ever seen. What makes you think you are entitled to my space? And why are you only thinking about your feelings? I'm someone who deals with social anxiety disorder, and one thing that causes me great discomfort is being touched by strangers. But what about other people who might have PTSD or a sensory disorder? Or what about people who just don't want strangers physically touching them? You are not entitled to others' space. You do not get to tell people how they should feel about it, and it's really fucked up that you just assumed malice from people who don't want you touching them.
Ready to hear about a messed up hospital policies for people giving birth? Did you know that there are weight limits or BMI restrictions on if you are allowed to use the birthing tub in hospitals that have birthing tubs? Fat phobia is rampant in the medical world and in the maternal medical world, and this is just one of the many ways that this comes out. I had a client who was 1 pound away from not being allowed to use the birthing tub in a hospital recently. 1 pound. What would that 1 pound have changed about getting in the tub? If you have experienced this in the medical world, I'm really sorry that they are failing you for how your body is.
This study by Bodner and others published in 2019 looked at the association between infant mortality and BMI in 1.2 million women who gave birth in Pennsylvania from 2003 to 2011. What they found is that after adjusting for anomalous infant deaths, infant mortality occurred at a higher rate when the mother is obese, even when compared to underweight mothers. For Class 1 obese mothers, the risk was 1.4 times higher. For Class 2 obese mothers, the risk was 1.7 times higher. For Class 3 obese women, the risk was 1.9 times higher. I made this graph to illustrate that data for you. Part of the reason for this is that obese mothers are more likely to have babies with congenital abnormalities. Bringing this back to tub births, it may be gross, but it is not uncommon for women to poop themselves during the birthing process. As we've already established, obese women are already higher risk. Do you want to increase the risk of infant mortality by bringing that baby into the world in a pool that is filled with blood and feces? No, of course not.
They only want you when you're 17. When you're 21, you're no fun.
So this creator has a screenshot from an article talking about the tragic death of Tyre Sampson, and she captioned it with, "When you're fat, you don't get to have fun safely." For those who don't know, Tyre Sampson was a 14-year-old boy who tragically fell to his death after not being properly secured to his seat on a ride at an amusement park. Here's the deal. The ride had a weight limit of 285. That's big for adults, so the ride was definitely built with fat kids in mind. But here's the problem. Tyre wasn't a typical fat child. Not only was he bigger than most children, but at a height of 6'5" or 1.9 meters for my non-Americans, and a weight of 340 pounds or 158 kilos for my non-Americans, the boy was bigger than most adults. The ride wasn't made for kids his size because 14-year-olds don't usually get that big. A child of his height and weight is literally in the 99.9th percentile. Asking people behind these rides to change the design for someone this rare would be like asking Walmart to carry gloves for people with 14 fingers. This whole situation is a tragedy, and I'm not sure how I feel about you using this event to make some sort of point.
Are you fat and concerned about your health? I have some great news and some not so great news. The not so great news is there is no known way to lose weight in a sustainable way.
Sure there is. It's called a calorie deficit.
98% of diets result in no significant weight loss. Those 2%, the average is 2 pounds that is maintained after 5 to 10 years. And 2/3 of people who try to lose weight through any method end up gaining more weight than they lost.
Any method, huh? O'Brien and others 2019 is a meta-analysis consisting of over 57 sets of data on weight maintenance over a period of 10 or more years as a result of 9 different methods of bariatric surgery. The results varied depending on the surgery. The most successful one was one anastomosis gastric bypass, which is a surgery in which staples are used to create a banana-sized pouch in the stomach. The pouch is then connected to the small intestine. After 10 or more years, researchers found that an average of 80.9% of excess weight was lost. The lowest success rate was seen in laparoscopic adjustable gastric banding, which is a surgery in which an inflatable band is placed around the stomach. After 10 or more years, 45.9% of excess weight was lost. The reason the success rate of these people is so high is precisely because the mechanisms of weight loss work. They work so well that success is more likely to be achieved when the individual's ability to overconsume is limited via surgery.
So the statistical likelihood of losing weight from a diet is actually almost non-existent, and you are a lot more likely to gain weight from a diet. So the great news is that there's nothing wrong with your body, and there are things that you can do to start working on your health at any size that are not contingent upon your body size or shape or any of the things, which is to find joyful ways to move your body, to drink more water, to sleep more, to find ways to live a more peaceful life with less stress in it, to create more social support from people that get you and love you exactly for who you are, to take vacations, to eat more fruits and vegetables, not from a place of shame, but because it's fun and they're great, to learn to really listen to and appreciate and follow and respect your body's cues in all of the ways. The end.
The laws of physics don't work as a matter of probability. There's no 50% chance the laws of thermodynamics won't apply. They will. If you're in a calorie deficit, you'll lose weight 100% of the time.
I have no time for this. This is not proven. You do not care. Be careful is fatphobic. So the invitation is to stick around and learn, or to go away and leave us to our fat positivity.
Ah, yes. Shut up and listen to me because I know I am correct. Doesn't this just radiate rationality?
So Jordan's getting canceled today because they said some controversial stuff. I'll tell you what it was. What was it?
I said that intentional weight loss is not a body positive act.
And he's right. It's not a body positive act. Body positivity got really white and thin washed, and that's a conversation for another day, but just here to tell you the pursuit of intentional weight loss is not aligned with fat liberation, which is the radical version of body positivity you're all looking for. Thoughts?
So true.
Don't get caught in the spider web of diet culture.
So true.
Hey, if disavowing intentional weight loss is what it takes to sit at the cool kids table, I'll gladly sit somewhere else. Come on, dude. This is cultic. And your cult doesn't even offer cool shit like Scientology.
Being body positive is not an excuse to neglect your health.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I'm a community health worker and I'm studying public health. And I want to talk about this video and what's wrong with it. You're right. Being body positive is not an excuse to neglect one's health. But that implies that every fat person is unhealthy, and that's simply not true.
It doesn't imply that at all. If I say smoking is bad for your cardiorespiratory health, that doesn't imply there's no marathon runners who smoke. It means smoking increases the risk that problems will arise.
I myself am a fat person, and while I can't speak for every fat person, I have never had issues with high blood pressure, heart disease, or diabetes. Ever. And the majority of the other fat people I know also have never had any problems with these illnesses.
I've met more smokers than you can poke a stick at, and only one ended up dying of cancer. But she also wasn't 21 years old like you. Diseases caused by obesity tend to be progressive. You don't just have diabetes one day after having a healthy A1C. It's a progression.
However, even if I had any problems with those illnesses, that does not mean that I'm less of a person or that I have failed or my body has failed in any type of way. That rhetoric is ableist and fatphobic and rooted in so many other issues, and the idea that fat people have neglected their health upholds the stereotype that all fat people are lazy and slobs, and that's not fucking okay.
Yeah, no one said these things. If you're a heavy drinker, you're not a bad person if you get cirrhosis. But the fact remains, you increased your own odds of getting it. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for all the support lately. It's been keeping me crazy motivated to keep this content coming. With that said, if you're not already subscribed, please like, comment, subscribe, do what you do. Alright, thank you.